The names in this story are not real. For privacy reasons, I've changed them, but everything I describe here is true. My name is Clara, my husband's name is Ethan. This is my story, a confession really. I thought I was standing up for myself, for my independence, but what I actually did was push away the man who had carried more weight in our life than I ever admitted. This is how it happened. It started on what felt like just another ordinary evening. Dinner was over, dishes on the table, and Ethan asked me about a bill that needed to be paid. Normally, it would have been a forgettable question, the kind you answer without a second thought. But something inside me snapped. I still don't know why I said it the way I did. Maybe frustration, maybe pride, maybe both. I looked at him and blurted out, "I'm not your property." The moment those words left my lips, I saw the shift in his eyes. He didn't argue, didn't raise his voice. Ethan just went quiet. That silence was heavier than any fight we'd ever had. At first, I felt powerful. I told myself I was drawing a line, reclaiming some piece of myself I thought had been buried in the routines of our marriage. But later that night, lying in bed, I replayed the scene again and again. His silence haunted me more than any angry words could have. For years, Ethan had carried so much, the bills, the repairs, the errands, everything. And I had gotten used to it. Maybe too used to it. But instead of admitting that, I turned my gratitude into entitlement. And now, I had thrown a dagger straight into his heart. The next morning, I thought things would go back to normal. Ethan is steady like that, always the one to smooth things over. He got up, moved through his routine, but there was a new distance in the way he moved, in the way he looked at me. I brushed it off. Maybe I'm overthinking, I told myself. But I wasn't. The cracks started small. He didn't take my car for gas like he usually did. He didn't grab his toolbox when the kitchen faucet started dripping. And when I reminded him about the car insurance payment, expecting his usual "I'll take care of it," he simply said, "You can handle it." I froze. It was such a small phrase, yet it cut through me. For years I had leaned on him to manage these things, sometimes without even asking. And now, with a calmness that scared me, he was handing it all back to me. I tried to laugh it off, act like it didn't bother me. But deep inside, something was shifting, and not in a good way. By the end of that day, I could feel the weight of his quiet rebellion pressing in from every corner of the house. The trash sat by the door. The car keys waited on the counter. Tasks I'd always trusted him with suddenly hung over me like unfinished business. That night, I asked him, "Are you going to tell me what's going on?" He looked at me with calm, steady eyes and said, "You said you're not my property, right? If you're not my property, then you're not my responsibility either." The words hit me like a slap. I wanted to scream, to argue, to take it back, but pride sealed my lips. I just walked away, slamming the bedroom door behind me. But alone in that dark room, staring at the ceiling, regret started creeping in. I had unleashed something I wasn't ready to face. And I could already feel it growing. First update. That night, lying in the dark after slamming the bedroom door, I couldn't escape his words. "If you're not my property, then you're not my responsibility either." They looped in my head until the silence itself became unbearable. I wanted to run back out, tell him I didn't mean it, that I wasn't trying to push him away. But my pride was stronger than my honesty. I thought if I stayed quiet, things would blow over. But the next morning they didn't. Ethan moved through his routine like I wasn't even there. He didn't make coffee, didn't remind me about my car's oil change. He just poured himself a mug and sat down with his phone, leaving me standing in the kitchen, mug in hand, feeling like a stranger in my own marriage. "Are you going to take the car in today?" I asked, trying to sound casual. He didn't even look up. "No. You can handle that." The words stung. Not because the task was hard, but because it was his way of saying, "I'm done carrying you." I told myself it didn't matter. Fine, I'll do it. But inside, panic flickered. What if this wasn't just about a car or a bill? What if he was pulling back from everything? And he was. The little things I had always counted on him for suddenly, they weren't happening. The trash sat by the door. The sink filled with dishes. The pantry emptied, without groceries magically appearing. Each small omission was like a silent accusation. You wanted independence, Clara. Here it is. One evening, after a long day at work, I walked into the kitchen and saw the trash still sitting there, the bag bulging. My patience snapped. Are you seriously just sitting there? I asked, my voice sharper than I intended. He didn't look up from the TV. Yep. Long day. The casualness in his tone was maddening. You could at least take out the trash. He shrugged. It's not that heavy. You can manage. I felt my chest tighten with disbelief. This was Ethan, the man who used to fix everything before I even noticed it was broken. And now he was looking at me like I was some roommate he barely knew. I grabbed the bag, stormed outside, and slammed the door behind me. But as I hurled the trash into the bin, the truth hit me like a weight. I wasn't just mad at him. I was mad at myself. Because this was my doing. My words had created this wall between us. And yet, I couldn't admit it. Not then. Not while he was standing so calm, so resolved, making me feel like a reckless child who had poked a bear and was now too scared to deal with the consequences. The days that followed only grew heavier. His absence wasn't loud. It was quiet, deliberate, suffocating. The electricity got cut off one afternoon because the bill hadn't been paid. Normally, Ethan would have fixed it before I even noticed. But this time, when I stormed into the living room demanding why, his response was cold, steady. You said you're not my property. I'm respecting that. But if you're not my property, then I'm not your caretaker. The words gutted me. I wanted to tell him I didn't mean it like that I just wanted to feel equal, not abandoned. But all that came out of my mouth was, this isn't independence. This is you being petty. He didn't argue. He didn't shout. He just walked past me like I wasn't even worth the energy. That night, I sat on the phone with customer service, struggling through endless automated menus, trying to get the power turned back on. My hands shook with frustration, tears stinging my eyes. Ethan would have handled it in minutes, but now, he just sat in the next room, letting me drown. And for the first time in our marriage, I realized, maybe I wasn't as independent as I liked to believe. Maybe I had built my life on the comfort of his silent sacrifices. But I was too stubborn to admit that to him. Not yet. Second update. The night the power went out, I sat in the living room surrounded by candles, the phone pressed to my ear, trying not to break down in tears while customer service placed me on hold for the 100th time. Ethan walked past me once, glanced at the candles, and without a word disappeared into the bedroom. He didn't even ask if I needed help. And for the first time, I felt invisible in my own home. When the lights finally flickered back hours later, I wanted to run to him, to tell him I wasn't built for this, that I still needed him. But my pride, God, my pride strangled the words before they could leave my mouth. Instead, I slammed the phone down and went to bed without saying a word. But the silence between us only grew. The next morning, I opened the fridge and froze. Empty shelves. Not even a carton of milk. Normally, he goes shopping once or twice a week without being asked. This time, nothing. Ethan, I called, trying to sound calm. Did you forget to grab groceries? He didn't look up from his coffee. No. I didn't forget. It took me a second to realize what he meant. You chose not to? He set his mug down, finally meeting my eyes with that calm, unreadable expression that had started to terrify me more than anger ever could. You're independent, Clara. You can handle the store. The way he said my name, distant, detached, made my stomach twist. So, I went to the store. I pushed the cart through aisles I hadn't really paid attention to in years, fumbling with prices, realizing how many things he used to stock without me even noticing. By the time I dragged the bags inside, exhausted, Ethan didn't even look up from the TV. He didn't say, thank you. Didn't say anything. It was his silence that broke me more than any fight ever could. One night, dishes piled up in the sink. I waited, telling myself he'd eventually wash them like always. But hours passed, and he never moved. So I stood in the kitchen, hands in soapy water, scrubbing plates furiously, tears blurring my vision. When he finally walked in, I couldn't stop myself. Do you even care anymore? About this house, about us? He leaned against the doorframe, arms crossed. His voice was calm, steady, terrifyingly certain. I cared for 20 years, Clara. And the first time I pulled back, you told me you're not my responsibility. I believed you. I dropped the sponge, water splashing against my shirt. My chest burned. That's not what I meant. You twisted my words. No, he said quietly, shaking his head. You just didn't think about what they really meant. That night, I curled into bed with my back to him, biting down on my pillow to muffle the sobs. He didn't reach for me. He didn't even shift closer. The space between us felt like a canyon I had no idea how to cross. Days blurred into weeks. Every little thing I had once taken for granted, bills, maintenance, even remembering to refill the water filter, became a constant weight on my shoulders. And with each task, each failure, regret chewed deeper into me. Because the truth was becoming clearer than ever, I wasn't angry at him for pulling away. I was angry at myself for pushing him to. But by the time I realized it, I didn't know if there was a way back. And Ethan? He seemed perfectly content to let me learn the hard way. Final update. The weeks dragged on like a slow punishment. Bills piled up, chores multiplied, and the silence between Ethan and me became unbearable. At first, I thought I could prove him wrong, show him I was strong enough, independent enough. But instead, I just found myself drowning. One Saturday morning, I sat at the dining table surrounded by unopened envelopes, bank statements, and a shut-off notice for the water bill. My hands trembled as I tried to make sense of numbers that always used to just work out. Because he made them work out. I heard his footsteps behind me, steady, calm, almost cruel in their indifference. I looked up at him, tears spilling down my cheeks. Ethan, I can't do this. For the first time in weeks, he actually paused. He looked at me, not past me, not through me, but at me. What can't you do? I choked on the words. Any of it. All of it. The bills, the house, keeping everything together. I thought I wanted freedom, but I didn't. I just wanted to feel equal. Instead, I pushed you away. I made you believe I didn't need you when the truth is, I've always needed you. The silence that followed nearly broke me. I buried my face in my hands, sobbing openly, no longer able to hide behind my pride. And then, softly, I felt his hand rest on the back of my chair. Not pulling me close, not forgiving everything at once. Just there. A reminder of the man who had always been my anchor. You should have said that weeks ago, he said quietly. His voice wasn't cold this time. It was tired, heavy, but honest. I know, I whispered, looking up at him through blurred eyes. I was stupid. I thought saying I wasn't your property meant I was strong. But all it did was hurt you. Hurt us. And I regret it, Ethan. Every single day since. He studied me for a long moment, and in his eyes, I saw both love and hurt. A man torn between the years of sacrifice he had given and the pain of being dismissed by the one person he thought understood. Finally, he sighed and pulled out the chair beside me. Clara, I never wanted you to feel like property. I wanted you to feel safe. But when you threw those words at me, it was like you erased everything I'd ever done for you. My heart cracked all over again. I know, and I can't take it back. But please don't give up on me. Don't give up on us. For a long time, he didn't answer. He just sat there, his hand resting on the table between us. And then, slowly, I reached out and placed mine over his. He didn't pull away. That small mercy, that tiny act of not rejecting me, was enough to make me believe maybe, just maybe, there was still a way back. I had broken something precious with my careless words. But I was ready to fight for it now, even if it meant rebuilding from the ground up. Because the truth was simple. I never wanted independence if it meant living without him. And in that moment, through my tears, I finally understood the weight of my mistake. This wasn't just regret. This was the hardest lesson of my life.